What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Here we are with another reaction. In this one, we got Trump's new tariff on Australia begins. I can't believe he actually tariffed Australia, one of our closest freaking allies. Let's see what he tariffed from Australia. I don't think it was a smart move, but before we dive in, if you guys happen to enjoy, please don't forget to subscribe, get a video a thumbs up. Let's get to it.
This is not a friendly act. Friends need to act in a way that reinforces to our respective populations the fact that we are friends.
Agreed.
Australia, along with the rest of the world, today slapped with a 25% tariff on steel and aluminium exports to the US. Donald Trump
believe that, man. 25% tariff. Wow.
Rejecting our plea for an exemption.
We've been treated very unfairly by every country all over the world. Right now, we're like a chicken that's being plucked at. We're not going to let that happen anymore.
The White House saying he did consider a carve-out as promised.
I told him that that's something that we will give great consideration to.
But decided against it.
Exemptions to anybody are counterproductive. They don't work for the American people.
Last year, Australia exported $640 million worth of steel and $440 million worth of aluminium to the US, less than 0.2% of our total exports of $660 billion. But our leaders still aren't impressed.
Such a decision by the Trump administration is entirely unjustified.
I think this is a dog act after over a century of friendship.
The opposition claiming the PM didn't do enough to secure the same exemption Malcolm Turnbull managed last time round.
It's not just Australians who see the Prime Minister as weak and incompetent, it's our trading partners as well.
All of the other leaders of the Quad and AUKUS travel to the US. Where has this Prime Minister been?
For the sake of your children, my children, the prosperity of the nation in the future, this is the time to pick up the phone and do something.
But the government maintains the battle is far from over.
I'm not going to accept this as the situation yet. We've got a never say die approach to these things.
And questions now turn to how Australia will respond.
We've got this thing called Pine Gap. What I'll be doing is saying you've got 7 days, so we're going to close this down. That means their intelligence gathering for this end of the world, they won't get any.
The government ruling out the tit-for-tat tariff retaliation dished out by countries like China and Canada.
We're not supportive of putting tariffs on American goods in retaliation. We're not going to make Australians pay more for goods and services.
So what's Australia's next move? And is our relationship with the US now on the rocks?
Well, Arthur Sinodinos was Australia's ambassador to the United States and he's with us now. Arthur, say you are the Aussie government, you're the PM right now. What's your next move from here?
Well, if I'm Aussie PM at the moment, I've got an election to get out of the way. I need to get a mandate to then go to Washington, eyeball the president, use that opportunity to remind the president and why having a strong relationship with Australia on defence, security and economic grounds is in America's interest as well as our interest. It's not about saying to them, we need you. It's now about how and why they need us.
Yeah, that's all a bit boring. I prefer Jackie Lambie's approach, which is to...
They need us.
Yeah, that's all a bit boring. I prefer Jackie Lambie's approach, which is to threaten them with withholding intelligence, Arthur. What do you reckon about that?
Well, I'll tell you what, we've got a couple of options here. We can either send you guys over or we can send Jackie. Now, I don't know whether the president has ever come across someone like Jackie Lambie, maybe in some parts of America, but I reckon she could have a real impact. So we've got a couple of options there.
Do you like her idea? I mean, Jackie Lambie as the envoy to the United States holds appeal for all sorts of reasons, I have to confess that. But the idea itself, do you think there's something in using our intelligence sharing leverage?
It's dangerous to put that stuff on the table. It really is, because we get a lot of benefit out of those sorts of defence and intelligence relationships. And so you don't easily use them as just leverage in this way. If you escalate on the president, he will escalate further. We saw this with Canada, where he threatened to raise tariffs to 50% when some of the Canadians said they would raise the tax on electricity going to the US.
This accounts for such a small amount of our exports. Are we overreacting?
Well, I don't think we're overreacting, but it should be a wake-up call to us that we're dealing with a new America. We have to deal with the Americans in an even more transactional way than we have in the past, and realise that we also have to keep developing our other relationships with like-minded democracies if we're going to promote that rules-based order that is so important.
So is the upshot of that Australia just doesn't really actually matter that much to America, or at least not to this White House, as of right?
Well, I don't think we should take this personally. I mean,
I'm not wounded. I'm not wounded personally. I just mean.
I'm not saying. I'm saying as a country we should not take this personally, right?
Yeah, but Arthur, that's actually my point. It's not personal. If it was personal, then the fact that we were Australia would matter. The fact. The fact that we are Australia and have this history with the United States clearly doesn't matter. That's kind of so it's not about taking this is what flows from the transactional nature of the relationship, isn't it? That Australia simply doesn't matter to the US because it's Australia anymore.
Australia matters to the US when there's mutual benefit in the relationship. That's the world we're in.
Yeah.
And that's how it should be, actually. From our point of view, our national interest should always be about why do we have particular relationships with particular countries and how do they serve our national interest. So if anything, this is a reminder that ultimately we've got to serve our own national interest and not have a sentimental view about some of these relationships.
Arthur, always good to speak to you. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.